Good morning and welcome to Week 22 of Major League Baseball Power Rankings. I'm your host Dave. Welcome back. For all new subscribers to the channel, quick review, because I know that everyone who has been subscribers has heard this 100 times over. I do power rankings based upon points, where 9 inning win, 3 points, 9 inning loss, 0 points. That way, when you have extra in a game, you take those 3 points and you split them up between the teams, both taking 1. The winner prevailing takes 2. That having been said, you're looking at the tiebreakers here because you have a few scenarios where you have ties. For ties, I take the fans who love runs and the runs scored that week, and fans who love defense, good pitching, and I subtract the runs given up to get the run differential. If you look on ESPN, if you look on MajorLeagueBaseball.com, you'll see these numbers are radically different. Reason being is because those sites are tracking the season-long tiebreakers, or run differential. However, because this is just a week-to-week tiebreaker, I'm only calculating that week's run differential. Okay, so this week we've had 6 teams climb up at least one spot, 11 teams drop at least one spot, and 12 stay the same spot. The highest jump was 3, the lowest fall was 2, and we are now in the midst of the September call-ups, roster expansions for September, and the playoff hunt is on. We have quite the dogfight for the division in the Central of both the American League and the National League. We have quite the dogfight for the second wild card of the American League, and an overcrowded pileup in the National League wild card. Having said that, we also have a fun contest for the number 1 seed in the American League. Mixed into that, we also have a wonderful 3-way dogfight for supremacy of all of Major League Baseball. You have 3 teams that are duking it out and almost virtually tied at this point for the best record in baseball. Where that comes into play is home field advantage. Why is that important? Because of the 5 teams that have been absolutely strongest at home, just feast on home games. 3 of them are your 3 leaders for the number 1 seed, which means you come into the World Series and you've won 85% of your games at home, and you get home field advantage. Oh my God, you are loving it. Versus having to travel on that road for Game 1 or Game 7. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's get on into it here. Let's get through some of our rebuilds who managed to fight it out for the bottom spots. You start off with your Detroit, and then you go to your Baltimore, and then you go to your Miami, and then you go to your Kansas City, and then you end up with your Toronto. Did that really fast here because you can see on the point totals here where they rank, and fundamentally they're all in various levels of rebuilding here. You've got a team that has been desperate in Detroit, that has been desperately trying to rebuild ever since the death of their owner several years ago. You've got Baltimore, who went on a major fire sale last year and are just rebuilding, trying to do anything, and they're also stuck in the American League East. When you've got Tampa, Boston, and New York, oh my God, can you ask for a more difficult scenario to rebuild under? Then you've got Miami, who just took over ownership last year under the Bruce Sherman Group, in which you have Derek Jeter as CEO. Phenomenal Hall of Famer as an executive. Whether or not he can lead Miami to a playoff contender status, who knows? But in the rebuilding status, he's done everything possible to ship off the good talent and bring in new talent. That basically puts a heavy reliance on your player development, on your coaching staff to be able to find and fix your players. Good luck to Miami. Kansas City dealt away some top prospects, top players. Eric Hosmer, your Yankees left them over a year ago, and they are trying to find the right blend of talent. In Toronto, you've got a whole bunch of Hall of Famer sons. All of them can hit. Very few of them can play defense. Bill Bichette, who came up way too late in the year, is playing phenomenal on both offense and defense. Next year, I predict she's going to be your lone Hall of Famer from Toronto. So there are your rebuilding teams. Now, out of the fold here, but rightfully should be in the fold, is coming at number 25, your Seattle Mariners, who I've been jokingly saying they have been trying to fight their way down to 30th and just can't quite pull it off. They're 3 points away at this point, and they're winning just enough to stay out of there, but performing so badly on the field that you would think that they were in that mix. Coming at number 24, the Colorado Rockies, with whom was my imaginary team to upset the Dodgers in the division series and have done everything to dispel that rumor, saying, "Ha, Dave, full joke's on you. We're going to go ahead and go 1-6 this week. We're going to get our butts whooped by Boston and Pittsburgh. Take that, Dave!" Coming in number 23, the Chicago White Sox, going also 1-5. By the way, Colorado had the worst week in baseball this week, going 1-6 and not far behind. Chicago being 1-5. Going 0-3 against Minnesota, 0-2 against Atlanta. It's just, sorry, you lost out on the Child Sweepstakes and you never really had a dandy this year. Good luck to you next year. Coming in at 22, my favorite losers of the season. I've been talking every week about how it's a team which you never know which team's going to show up. Is it going to be a team that can take out LA, or is it going to be a team that gets its butt whooped by Detroit? You never know. But from an outsider perspective, from a third-party objective fan base, it is extremely fun to watch because you never know what's going to happen. From that Pittsburgh Pirates fandom stage, and it's excruciatingly painful because as much as you love your team, as much as you want them to perform, they can never get their act straight. Coming in at number 21, the San Francisco Giants, with which are on the outside looking in for the wild card. They're 7 games back for the second wild card spot. They don't even deserve to be in the conversation. However, because they are so far down the power rankings and the fact they're actually within 10 games of the second wild card, I mention it just to say, hey Dave, look at how good your power rankings are. Your numerical point system has gotten so wonderful that you have somebody who's in the conversation for the wild card all the way down here. Imagine that. Coming in number 20, the San Diego Padres. Despite bringing Hopper, despite retooling their pitching staff, despite winning the Machado stand breaks, they're still in the bottom of the National League West. Coming in number 19, the Texas Rangers are in prime position to play spoiler if they play the right teams, and Lord knows they would love to build on that and especially see what their prospects can do in September to maybe make a run at things next year. Speaking of making a run at things next year, the Cincinnati Reds were in the conversation up to a couple of weeks ago, up to last week for the wild card. Now, as wide open as the wild card is, they're too far out. Having a 3 or 4 week does not help your position much. Yes, they feasted on Miami, going 3-1 against them, but then late in that against the division-leading St. Louis Cardinals. When you lose your divisional games, especially the teams you're chasing, that really puts a damper on your ability to contend. Coming in number 17, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They've gone 2-3. They get prime position to play spoiler. They won 1-1 against Texas, 1-1 against Boston. And this is a team that has the perennial future Hall of Famer Mike Trout, and he has undoubtedly been phenomenal talent. But he's playing on a team that is hapless at best and hopeless at worst. They have not had a strong contending team since Socia left. The new management is doing the best they can, but fundamentally, they don't get the most out of their players. And unfortunately, as much talent as they have on a team, they can't put together on a consistent basis. Speaking of lack of consistency, you've got Milwaukee coming in at 4 games back in the National League wild card. They are very much hot in the conversation. However, at this point in time, it's getting to the point where if you're not like within a couple of games with as crowded as the field is, it makes you wonder if they even belong in the conversation. Them, along with the Mets, being 4 games back, are technically in the conversation because you do have 25 games left in the season. And that is technically enough to make a run at things. However, that also is contingent upon teams ahead of you losing games. The only thing you can do is make sure you win your games and hope for the best. You're looking for help at this point. And going 1-2 against St. Louis and 1-1 against Chicago Cubs, 2 teams you're chasing, is not helping your cause, Milwaukee. I saw this series against St. Louis. I saw how deflated they were. Granted, it was a game they were getting crushed 10-2, and they came back the next day and beat St. Louis handily. But if you're not taking that series and owning that and dominating, especially at home, it's just like, you expect to take that in the playoffs? I think we'll be looking at the bench, and this is a team of which I pegged this powerhouse in the first quarter. Totally get it. I own that. I thought they were a phenomenal team, and the dog this summer has proved that they let others, contenders, rising stars, surpass them and kind of humble them a bit. Speaking of which, a stacked team, and the Philadelphia Phillies, coming in number 15, have dropped 1 spot to 15th spot. Despite taking 2 out of 3 from the Pittsburgh Pirates, you dropped 2 games to the New York Mets, who are currently, I believe, maybe a little ahead of you. New York Mets, no, they're not. Mets are 4 games back in the National League wild card. Meanwhile, Philadelphia Phillies are a hair above it. They're 3.5 games back. Being that you have great pieces in Nola, who's the guy they got from Chicago? Arrieta. And I mean, I can go through the whole lineup, but you Phillies kind of know who they got, and most people who have been paying attention to the Phillies and care about the Phillies know who they got. Having said that, there's a team with which has just played horribly inconsistent. They have enough talent to get into the wild card, but at this point in time, they're not only going to have to win their games, they're going to have to keep an eye on the scoreboard here. Coming in at number 14, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Also 3.5 games out. Like I said, it's a tightly contested wild card. And they, however, did take care of business. They took 2-0 against San Francisco. They took 3-0 against LA. They're like, okay, if you guys aren't going to take care of business, we are. We want that wild card. We're still in the conversation here. Let's roll. Coming in number 13, the New York Mets, like the Brewers, are 4 games back in the National League wild card, second wild card. And this team with which the New York Mets had earned a steam spot last week after dropping 3 to the Chicago Cubs and taking 2 from Philadelphia, saying, hey, we can play as wildly inconsistent as the next person, and we still believe we can contend. Good luck to you, New York. I don't see it happening. Coming in at number 12, the Boston Red Sox dropped 2 spots this week. They are, like the Giants, so far out that I do not see them making the playoffs, but they're just a hair close enough to stay in the conversation, as they are 5.5 back of the American League second wild card. Being that the first wild card and there's a tie for the second wild card there, I don't see them making it, but I have to make an honorable mention to them. Why? Because they're statistically close enough that they could make a run out, and you never know. But after going 2-0 against Colorado and 1-1 against LA, they are not going to make it. But they still get honorable mention. Coming in at number 11, the Chicago Cubs are the team that right now have the second wild card. They are closer to St. Louis for the National League Central than they are to the first wild card. Having said that, if St. Louis wasn't playing so hot right now, I would say no question the Chicago is going to catch them. At this point in time, they might end up having to travel to the, where is that note? I thought I had that listed there. Looking at my notes here, I, for some reason, did not mention the National League wild card first spot. Oops, my bad. But that's, you're looking at, let's see here, St. Louis, Milwaukee. I'm missing somebody in this thought process. My goodness. I'm having such a stupid brain fart right now. National League wild card. National League West. Okay, so I'm having a brain fart. My bad. I apologize. So, getting into the top. Now that covers the bottom 20 here. They are closer to the national, but I don't see them catching the way the St. Louis is playing. They're probably not going to catch St. Louis. At the same time, they're still very much in the driver's seat for the wild card there. And with the team that they have, if they do get into the playoffs as a wild card, all bets are off. Anything can happen. I do think they can win the wild card game. However, that takes you to LA, and then good luck. Last year, they've been playing the LA like 3 out of the last 4 years in the playoffs here. Sometimes in the championship series, sometimes the division series. Last year, the LA kicked their butts. The previous year, they've gone back and forth between winning series when they match up together. Definitely means that they are very competitive when it comes to postseason play, regardless of where they stand in regular season. So that covers the bottom 20 here. Let's go ahead and get into our top 10. The awesome top 10. Everyone loves it's a nice even round number. It definitely signifies when you have 30 teams, you're upper echelon. Coming in, number 10, the St. Louis Cardinals. This is the National League Central leaders right now, and probably presumed future champions of the Central. Had come out from the woodworks, and at the All-Star break, I'm looking at who is so far out, could be surprise teams. I did not have St. Louis pegged as a team that would rally and take over the division, and yet here they are! Yay! Welcome to the club, St. Louis. You own your division, and barring a collapse or a run by Chicago, you're going to own your division. Coming in, number 9, the Nationals, who are in the first American League. Okay, that's where I screwed up. I wrote American League wild card first seed under the Washington Nationals. That was actually supposed to be the National League wild card first spot. Whoa! This is what happens when you make these notes at 6 a.m. in the morning, Dave. Get some sleep. So, okay, if the Chicago Cubs do not catch the St. Louis Cardinals, they're going to be traveling to Washington, and I definitely see Chicago as being a stronger team in that matchup. Go ahead, Nationals, go ahead. I'll own that, okay? No problem. Go ahead and give your comments in the section below. Tell me all about how your team is so much stronger than Chicago Cubs and you're going to rock it. Totally would love it. Bring it on. Come on. Let's hear it. I would love to have the banter with you. Comment number 8, the Oakland Athletics, whom have been quite the thorn in the side of other teams trying to contend for the playoffs here and get their seeding situated, and much delayed the Oakland Athletics, they have been that thorn because they're trying to get into the playoffs, and right now they own the American League second wild card, tied with the Tampa Bay Rays. And fundamentally, the Oakland Athletics are historically a second-half team. On top of that, the Tampa Bay Rays can't seem to win at home. Between those two factors, I absolutely see Oakland winning that wild card seed if they can't catch the Cleveland Indians. And right now, the Oakland Athletics are sitting all of 1 game back as far as the it's the first wild card there. So it's entirely possible they could go from owning the second wild card to outright taking the first one, hosting that game. Wouldn't that be interesting? Speaking of American League wild card, number 7, the Tampa Bay Rays, whom I just mentioned can't seem to win at home, except for this week when they go 1-2 at Houston and then take 2-0 against the Cleveland Indians at home. So they are showing that, hey, we've had a lot of trouble at home, but hey, first wild card and teamwork chasing Cleveland Indians are coming into our home field at Top Propaganda. And yeah, we have a hurricane coming our way, but we're still playing baseball. And we're going to take care of business in front of the crowd who is showing up. Okay, so they're in contention here, and they're in tie for the second wild card. I do see Oakland prevailing in that fight, but Tampa Bay has definitely put up a very, very strong season, and they definitely deserve to be in that dogfight. Because all the good fights are dogfights. Every team slugging that left and right, trying to win every game possible. That's what makes these playoffs so much fun down the home stretch. Coming in at number 6, the Cleveland Indians, with which, being that they are all 4 games back of the Minnesota Twins, statistically speaking, have a harder schedule than the Minnesota Twins. However, they seem to have, they do have a deeper team as far as the ability to play defense is concerned. Minnesota has a phenomenal offense. They can definitely outslug most anybody. It was a phenomenal series between Minnesota and New York with a slugfest. And granted, easy schedule or hard schedule, you still have to win your games. When you've got a harder schedule of New York having to play Oakland while Houston has to play Toronto, and yet New York defeats Oakland and Houston does not beat Toronto, it shows you that easy schedule or hard, you still have to win your games. So, having said that, my thought process is that Minnesota is most likely, especially with a 4-game lead, especially going into this late in the season, most likely going to take that Central crown and end up playing whoever loses the first seed between Houston and New York. However, I just like these wild cards, with whom, if you're 4 games out, you're still in the conversation. They are not out of it here. And here's the reality of the matter: whoever loses that race in the Central is definitely going to that wild card, whether they host it or on the road. They are. Unless the barring a collapse, they're in that playoffs. They're not out of the conversation here. So, no matter how good you are in Minnesota, you have to keep the pedal to the metal, or these guys are gonna find you, are gonna get you. Coming in number 5, the Atlanta Braves. The feel-good story of the season. We have a whole bunch of rookies having a phenomenal year. Definitely far and away playing above their abilities and their statistics, and they're just killing it. They went from the middle of the pack, bottom of the pack beginning of the year, to now they have so much distance between the rest of the division. It's a foregone conclusion they're going to win the National League East. And after going 1-1 against Toronto and 2-0 against Chicago, they had a 4-2 week solidifying their spot here. At this point in time, they are doing what they need to do to get ready for playoffs, and then waiting out to see who they're going to play in the division series. Right now, it looks like St. Louis. And previously, the conversation was between Milwaukee or Chicago, and now St. Louis. So it just shows you how much activity there is in the Central. And it also says because LA has run away with the National League so badly, they're just sitting there waiting to see who they're going to play. Which is not a bad position to be in, but makes it, because you don't have to actually participate in that dogfight just to get in there. You own that. But at the same time, unless there's severe differences from a mental perspective on how to match up against St. Louis or Chicago, that could cause some headaches, but nothing they're going to worry about right now. Coming in, number 4, the Minnesota Twins can outslug anybody. And they do have, between Barrios, Nova, and others, a very solid rotation. There's no knocking the rotation. Do they have a starting rotation that can compete with the best of the best? Maybe, maybe not. There's a lot of X factors in there, which I would love to get into if you want to have a conversation about that. But far, far and away, their number one asset is their offense. They can outslug anybody, as shown with the New York-Minnesota series. And I wish them all the best. As far as the division is concerned, it is yours to lose. It really is. You have a 4-game lead. There's absolutely no excuse not to hold on to that Minnesota and then gear up for the loser of the first seed there. Whether you're going to Houston, whether you're going to New York, you're definitely going to be on the road either way. But who do you want, Minnesota? Tell me in the comment section below, who do you want? Do you want to travel to New York or do you want to travel to Houston? Which do you want to play more? And you can take a look at the season record there. It's not exactly like you've owned either team. So, who do you want, Minnesota? Let me know. Coming in, number 3, the Houston Astros. As exciting as it was that they secured Greinke, they haven't gotten the most production out of him. Has he won some pretty good games? Yes. But he also just lost a big game, too, dropping to Tampa Bay. It's just like, okay, I mean, yes, he's a phenomenal pitcher, but he also has anxiety when playing in front of a big crowd. Can he win the big games? When it comes to the playoffs, that's going to be kind of important there. You don't want a Dan Marino-style Greinke here with whom is phenomenal regular season, like Clayton Kershaw, but struggles to win the playoffs when it matters most. The Houston Astros, beyond Greinke, have an absolutely phenomenal team. No questions asked. Their lineup is very strong. Their rotation is very strong. Their bullpen not as strong as others, but certainly get the job done often enough. They went 4-2 this week, having taken 2 out of 3 from Tampa and 1-1 against Toronto. So this is a team that is definitely in a dogfight with the Dodgers and the Yankees for the number 1 seed. And they have, if you take a look at the easiest schedules, the remainder of the season, okay, you've got, I believe, I could have my facts reversed, but I think it was the Dodgers have the 2nd easiest, Houston has the 3rd easiest, and New York has the 6th easiest. Having said that, if you have among the easiest schedules in the league, that definitely favors you. But you just lost to Toronto, okay? Yes, Toronto's very, very good at home. I get that. But Toronto's not going anywhere. There's a team you should be owning here, Houston. Seriously, really, you should. So, in that regard, it's a wonderfully, phenomenally fun, entertaining dogfight between New York and Houston for the number 1 seed in the American League. Now, we're definitely playing favors when it comes to the American League Championship Series. Should both teams get there, think about this. The Houston Astros took all 3 games against New York in Houston, and then New York took 3 out of 4 in New York. Tell me how important home field advantage is. Tell me, come on. Like I just mentioned earlier, LA, Houston, and New York are 3 of the 5 strongest teams at home. Tell me that home field advantage is worth fighting for. Oh yeah, baby, yeah. Coming at number 2, the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers have been perennial number 1 seeds for most of the season here, but after dropping 3 games to Arizona and New York and feasting on Seattle, the LA has fallen for a 2nd week this season, not consecutive, but for a 2nd week this season, to the number 2 spot. There's a team that could coast into the playoffs, but in terms of trying to get that World Series home field advantage, when you are convinced that you are absolutely World Series bound, then you are playing for that home field advantage, especially when you win like 90% of your games at home. That is critical to the Dave Roberts company of the LA Dodgers. And you definitely have a team that can, with the strength of your remaining schedule, can definitely own that. But you have to win those games. Taking 2 out of 3 from San Diego was all good and fine, but you dropped a game, and you dropped 3 against Arizona. Not 4, 3. Their season finale today. These are games in which if you were trying to prepare yourselves for a World Series home field, those are games you need to win. And that's why you fell number 2 this week. Coming at number 1, the New York Yankees are a team that have had a very, very strong week, going 5 wins and 1 loss, feasting on those Seattle Mariners, then splitting at Oakland at home. That hurts to see them lose at home against Oakland after they just got their butts whooped in Oakland. However, you're also talking about a team that has set a major league record. Historic historically, not just this year, but in Major League history, they set the record for the most players on the injured list for any team in Major League history. And yet here they sit at number 1. Oh my gosh! A team that has been crippled with upward of 39 players. That's more than an entire active roster of players who have been on the IL one point or another this season. Virtually, you could almost the entire, if not the whole roster, has at one point been on the injured list. I can't think of a name who hasn't. Please feel free to throw one up there. As I could probably find a date in which they were. Having said that, that shows so much resilience and strength, okay? Tell me out there in baseball land, who wants to play the Yankees? Who is rooting to play the Yankees? Seriously, give me a name, okay? Because yes, they've had bad weeks, they've had bad series, like every single team here. Who wants to actually seize their way to the World Series Championship by going through New York? Give me a name. I mean, really. I can say the same thing about LA. Honestly, that 2-1 dogfight in LA was a phenomenally entertaining series. Oh my God, that would be so much fun for the World Series to see them go tit for tat, back and forth. I love those evenly matched series. They're so much fun. There's no predictability. It's just wildly entertaining for the fans. So, there is our power rankings for this week, week 22. We have 4 of these left before we get into the wild card games and the playoffs as a whole throughout October. I'm looking forward to bringing you previews and reviews of the series there, you know, what their pros and cons are and stuff of that nature. Please let me know in your comment section below what you think about the power rankings. Should teams be higher? Who should be lower? What you think of the upcoming playoffs? Let me know all your thoughts. And if you just happen to be browsing through and happen upon this video, please hit like and subscribe. Greatly helps the channel. And as always, thank you for watching. Enjoy the games.